Stop the wedding now! The text message glowed on my phone screen. Unknown number. 45 minutes before my daughter walked down the aisle. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. Thaddeus isn't an engineer. He's never designed anything. Check his portfolio. Those are projects designed by my dead brother. Thaddeus stole his identity after he died. He's after your family's estate. I looked out the window. 200 guests already seated under the white tent by our stables. Thaddeus stood at the altar in his custom Stetson and bolo tie, looking every bit the charming Texas gentleman who'd swept my daughter off her feet. And Aurelia, my beautiful, brilliant Aurelia, was upstairs having final touches done to her grandmother's vintage lace gown, radiant with happiness. How did it come to this? 6 months ago, I'd been planning the perfect Texas wedding, thrilled my daughter had found her soulmate. Now a stranger was telling me the man about to become my son-in-law was a fraud, a thief, a monster. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how I ended up here, phone in hand, heart pounding, wedding march about to begin, you need to know where it all started. And trust me, you won't believe how blind I was. My name is Vesper Langford, and at 69 years old, I thought I knew people. I'd raised my daughter Aurelia alone after my husband died from a sudden heart attack when she was 12. We built our lives together in Fort Worth, Texas, on the same sprawling ranch estate that's been in our family since the oil boom of the 1920s. The ranch wasn't just property. It was legacy. 500 acres overlooking the Trinity River, with ancient live oaks older than the state itself. We managed our family's energy investment foundation together, hosted charity rodeos, maintained our position among Fort Worth's old money families. Aurelia was brilliant, fierce, loyal, everything I could have hoped for in a daughter. After her father died, we became inseparable. Sunday mornings we'd ride horses through the property. Tuesday nights were for foundation work, reviewing investment portfolios, planning charitable initiatives. Weekends we'd host gatherings, keeping up the social connections that had sustained our family for generations. I'd watch her sometimes, so capable and strong, and wonder if she'd ever find someone worthy of her, someone who understood that marrying Aurelia meant joining something bigger than himself, someone who'd honor our family's Texas heritage. Then, 2 years ago, she brought Thaddeus home. It was a warm October evening when Aurelia's car pulled up the long driveway. I was on the porch, arranging mums in ceramic pots, my mother's pots, weathered and beautiful. "Mom!" Aurelia called out, practically glowing. "I want you to meet someone." Thaddeus Brennigan stepped out of the passenger side. Tall, distinguished-looking, with silver threading through his dark hair. Mid-40s, I'd guess. He wore boots, real boots, not the ones city folks buy to look the part. And when he smiled, his whole face lit up. "Mrs. Langford," he said, extending his hand. "Aurelia's told me so much about you and this beautiful property. I have to say, seeing it in person, it's like stepping back into the Texas I thought we'd lost." I liked him immediately. Shame on me. Over dinner that night, he quoted Larry McMurtry like he'd grown up reading Lonesome Dove by candlelight. He admired our collection of vintage Western art, asking intelligent questions about the artists, the periods, the significance. He listened when I talked about the ranch's history, really listened, not the polite nodding most young people do. "I've always dreamed of preserving Texas heritage properties," he said, setting down his wineglass. "So much of our history is being bulldozed for strip malls and condos. What you have here, it's sacred. It should be protected for generations." Aurelia squeezed his hand, looking at him like he'd hung the moon. Thaddeus is a petroleum engineer, she told me proudly. He's designed some of the most innovative drilling operations in Colorado. But his real passion is preservation work. Someone has to protect what matters, he said modestly. I should have asked more questions, should have wanted to see those impressive projects, should have wondered why a successful Denver engineer wanted to relocate to Fort Worth. But I didn't. Because he said all the right things, because my daughter was happy, because I was lonely, if I'm being honest. And the idea of Aurelia finding a partner who'd stay in Texas, who'd value our legacy, who'd give me grandchildren to spoil on this ranch. It was everything I'd hoped for. Looking back, that was my first mistake. Not asking the hard questions. Being so grateful someone saw value in what we'd built that I didn't question whether that value meant something different to him. 6 months later, Thaddeus proposed. Not in some fancy restaurant or on a trip abroad. He did it on our ranch, at sunset, by the oldest live oak on the property. The tree my great-grandfather had planted when he'd first struck oil. Aurelia called me, crying happy tears, and I cried with her. My baby was getting married. "And Mom," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "Thaddeus wants to have the wedding here, at the ranch. He says it's only right that we start our marriage in the place that means everything to our family." Our family. He'd said, our family. I melted, completely melted. "Of course," I said. "We'll make it the most beautiful Texas wedding anyone's ever seen." And I meant it. I spent the next months planning every detail. The ceremony would be under the live oaks, with white chairs and wildflower arrangements. The reception in our restored 1920s barn, with string lights and a live fiddle band. I commissioned custom boots and belt buckles from the finest craftsmen on the stockyards. I had Aurelia's grandmother's lace gown restored by specialists in Dallas. Every choice honored our family's history. Every detail felt like destiny. Thaddeus was involved in everything, offering suggestions, praising my choices. "You have such an eye for this, Vesper," he'd say. "This wedding will be legendary." He started spending more time at the ranch, helping with repairs, learning the property, talking about our future here. He'd walk the fence lines with me, discussing land management. He'd review foundation documents, offering perspectives on energy investments. "You've built something remarkable," he told me one evening, the two of us sitting on the porch watching fireflies. "Not just the wealth, the legacy, that matters more than money ever could." I thought I'd found a son, a true partner for my daughter, someone who'd carry our family's torch into the next generation. God, I was stupid. It was small, so small I almost missed it. Last month, just 1 month before the wedding, Thaddeus suggested Aurelia add him as co-owner on the ranch deed. For estate planning purposes, he'd explained, showing us documents his lawyer had prepared. "If something happened to you, Vesper, we want to make sure there are no complications with inheritance. Texas probate can be brutal." Aurelia looked at me, uncertain. "Mum, what do you think?" What did I think? I thought it made sense. I thought he was being responsible. I actually thought, he was protecting our family's interests. "Your father would have wanted you protected," I said. We signed the papers. My lawyer had looked them over, mentioned something about keeping original ownership documentation secure, but I'd waved him off. "He's going to be family," I'd said. 2 weeks later, Thaddeus convinced Aurelia to take out a massive loan against the property. "For my new energy consulting firm," he'd explained. "It's a guaranteed return. I have clients lined up, contracts ready to sign. This is our chance to build something together, expand the family business into the next century." The loan was for $2.3 million. Aurelia was hesitant, but Thaddeus was persuasive. He showed her projected earnings, industry connections, opportunities, and when she still wavered, he'd looked hurt. "I thought you believed in me," he'd said quietly. "I thought we were building a life together." She'd taken out the loan, because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You believe in them. You support their dreams. Except there was no firm, no clients, no contracts, just forged documents and empty promises. But I didn't know that yet. None of us did. So there I stood, 45 minutes before the wedding, staring at that text message like it was a bomb. My first instinct was to dismiss it. Wrong number. Prank. Someone jealous of Aurelia's happiness. But something made me click on Thaddeus's website. His portfolio page loaded. Beautiful images of drilling operations, innovative engineering solutions, impressive projects across the Southwest. I clicked on the first project. Reverse image search. My blood went cold. The project belonged to an engineer named Quillen Westbrook, who died in an explosion at a rig in Midland 3 years ago. I checked another project. Same thing. Dead engineer. Stolen work. Another. 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 Every single project Thaddeus claimed to have engineered belonged to dead professionals. Men who died in accidents, explosions, incidents that left no one to dispute the theft of their life's work. Thaddeus hadn't designed anything. He'd stolen identities from corpses. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. He's done this to at least 4 families across Texas and Oklahoma. He targets legacy properties with valuable mineral rights, marries into them, gets control, then orchestrates insurance fraud. My cousin barely escaped with her life. Stop the wedding. Please. The room spun. I sat down hard on the bed, my grandmother's quilt bunching under me. What happened next destroyed me. But before I tell you, I need you to understand something. If you think what I'm about to describe is wrong, if you believe mothers have the right to protect their children, hit that subscribe button right now. If you think family legacy matters more than some con man's schemes, smash that like button. Because what I discovered in the next 10 minutes changed everything. And I need you on my side for what comes next. Drop a comment if you've ever had to choose between trusting your gut and trusting someone you love. I want to hear your story. Because what I'm about to tell you gets so much worse. I called the number back. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. A woman answered immediately. "Mrs. Langford? Who is this?" My voice came out strangled. "How did you get my number?" "My name is Sable Krishnan. I've been tracking Thaddeus, or Dax Calloway, which is his real name, for 5 years, since he destroyed my family." "I don't understand." "He married my cousin in Houston," she interrupted. "Beautiful wedding. He was charming, successful, perfect. Within 6 months, he'd gotten control of our commercial properties, family-owned buildings worth millions. Then there was a gas leak, an explosion, insurance payout of $8 million. My cousin barely escaped with her life, lost her mother and her uncle in the fire. I couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was saying. The investigation ruled it accidental, Sable continued, voice tight with emotion. But I knew it wasn't. I started digging, found 3 other families, Oklahoma, Austin, San Antonio, same pattern. Charming man, sudden romance, marriage, property transfer, then catastrophic accident and insurance money. He changes his name each time, uses dead engineer's credentials to seem legitimate, and he always walks away rich. "Why didn't you go to the police?" I whispered. "I did. They said I had no proof, just suspicions. The deaths were ruled accidental. The insurance companies paid out. There was nothing they could do without evidence of premeditation. She paused. But I kept watching, kept tracking. When I saw the engagement announcement in the Fort Worth Society pages, Thaddeus Brennigan marrying Aurelia Langford of the Langford Ranch, I recognized the pattern. Legacy property, oil and gas rights, elderly widow owner. I knew he'd found his next target. I looked out the window. Thaddeus was talking to someone behind the barn. I squinted, trying to see who it was. Henrik Vaughan, our insurance agent, the man who'd just increased our property coverage to $20 million at Thaddeus's insistence. They were laughing, shaking hands like old friends. They knew each other. "Oh my God," I breathed. "What?" Sable asked urgently. "What did you see?" "Our insurance agent. They're talking, like they've known each other for years." "Then it's already in motion," Sable said, and I heard the devastation in her voice. "Mrs. Langford, you need to stop that wedding. You need to call the police. You need to get Aurelia away from him right now." "She won't believe me," I said. "She loves him. She'll think I'm trying to ruin her happiness." "Then you show her proof. The stolen identities. The other families. My cousin's story. You make her understand that the man she's about to marry is planning to kill her for insurance money. Kill her. My daughter. My Aurelia." I wanted to vomit. Wanted to scream. Wanted to grab my daughter and run. But if I confronted him now, in front of 200 guests, with no actual proof beyond some internet searches and a stranger's phone call, would anyone believe me? Or would Thaddeus spin it as a controlling mother having a breakdown, trying to ruin her daughter's wedding day? "There's more," Sable said quietly. "I think he's already rigged something. With my cousin, he set up the explosion during the reception. Everyone inside the building. Multiple casualties meant bigger insurance payout and less chance of survivors who might question the accident." My phone buzzed with another text. A photo. It showed propane tanks behind our barn, with new valve attachments. Professional looking, but wrong. Modified. The text read, "Taken this morning by groundskeeper. Thought you'd want to know someone was messing with your propane setup. Martinez. Our groundskeeper. Martinez, who'd been with our family for 30 years and knew every inch of this property. Someone had tampered with the propane tanks, right where the reception was supposed to happen, right where 200 people, including me and Aurelia, would be celebrating in just a few hours. He's going to blow up the barn," I said aloud. "During the reception. He's going to kill everyone." "Then you have minutes," Sable said. "Minutes to decide what matters more. Your daughter's wedding day, or your daughter's life. Call the police. Stop the wedding. Save your family." I heard footsteps in the hallway. Aurelia's voice, laughing with her bridesmaids. "Mom, are you ready? The photographer wants family photos before the ceremony." My door handle turned. I had seconds to decide. Show her the evidence and shatter her happiness, or stay silent and risk losing everything. Our lives, our legacy, our family. But before I could move, before I could speak, I saw Thaddeus through the window. He'd turned toward the house, toward my window. And when our eyes met, he smiled. That perfect, charming smile that had fooled me for 2 years. Then he mouthed 2 words I could read clearly across the distance. "Too late." I shoved my phone in my pocket as Aurelia burst into the room, radiant in her grandmother's gown. "Mum, you're not even dressed. We have—" She stopped, seeing my face. "What's wrong?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." I opened my mouth, closed it. Every instinct screamed at me to tell her everything, but the words wouldn't come. How do you destroy your daughter's happiness? How do you tell her the man she loves is planning to murder her? Just nervous, I managed. Wedding day jitters? She laughed, coming over to hug me. You're not the one getting married, Mom. I should be the nervous one. I held her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, the same shampoo she'd used since high school. My baby girl, my fierce, brilliant daughter who'd trusted the wrong man. Maybe you've been here. In a moment where you know something terrible, but speaking it aloud feels impossible. Where silence seems kinder than truth, even though silence might kill you both. Drop a comment if you've ever had to make an impossible choice. Because what I decided in that moment, whether to trust my instincts or preserve my daughter's joy, it haunts me still. Aurelia, I said carefully, do you trust me? She pulled back, confused. Of course. What kind of question is that? If I asked you to postpone the wedding, just for a day or two, would you do it? No questions asked? Her smile faded. Mum, we have 200 guests out there. The food, the flowers, the band, everything is ready. Why would we postpone? Please, just trust me. Is this about Thaddeus? Her voice went cold. I know you've been weird about the loan, about adding him to the deed. But Mom, he's going to be my husband. You need to accept that. I just need you to… To what? Keep treating him like an outsider. Keep second-guessing every decision we make together. She shook her head. I love you. But this is my life. My choice. And I'm marrying Thaddeus today, whether you approve or not. She turned and walked out, bridesmaids fluttering after her like pastel butterflies. I stood there, alone, heart hammering. She wouldn't listen, wouldn't believe, which meant I had to handle this myself. I pulled out my phone and called 911. What's your emergency? I need police at the Langford Ranch immediately. There's a… What was there? A bomb? A conspiracy? A con man marrying my daughter? There's been a threat against the wedding. What kind of threat, Mom? Explosive device. Propane tanks behind the barn have been tampered with. We have 200 guests arriving for a wedding reception in that barn in 2 hours. The dispatcher's tone sharpened. Are you in immediate danger? Not yet. But we will be. Please? You need to send someone now. Officers are en route. Please evacuate the area immediately. I hung up and called Martinez, our groundskeeper. Martinez, that photo you sent me? The propane tanks. Where are you right now? Workshop, Mrs. Langford. Why? Something wrong? I need you to shut off the main gas lines. All of them. Right now. And don't let anyone near those tanks until the police arrive. Police? Mrs. Langford, what's going on? Just do it. Please. And don't tell anyone I called. Next, I called my lawyer. Straight to voicemail. Of course. Saturday afternoon, he was probably on a golf course somewhere. Michael, it's Vesper. I need you to call me immediately. It's about the deed transfer and the loan. I think we've been defrauded. Call me back. Finally, I called Sable back. Did you stop it? She asked immediately. Police are coming, but I need more proof, something concrete I can show Aurelia. She won't believe me without evidence. Check his phone, Sable said. My cousin found text messages after the explosion. He'd been coordinating with his insurance agent for months. If you can get his phone, even for a few minutes… How am I supposed to get his phone? He's not going to just hand it over. Then find another way. Bank records, emails, something. You're running out of time, Mrs. Langford. If those police show up and find nothing wrong with those propane tanks, if he's smart enough to have already removed the modifications, then you'll look like a crazy old woman trying to sabotage her daughter's wedding, and he'll know you're onto him, which means he'll move up his timeline. She was right. I needed proof. Real, tangible evidence that would convince not just Aurelia, but the police, but everyone. I changed into my mother of the bride dress, a pale blue silk that suddenly felt like a costume, forced my shaking hands to apply makeup, fixed my hair in the mirror, watching an old woman stare back at me with terrified eyes. This wasn't how today was supposed to go. This was supposed to be joy, celebration, the happiest day of my daughter's life. Instead, I was preparing for war. I went downstairs. The house buzzed with activity. Caterers setting up, florists making final arrangements, the photographer capturing candid moments that were anything but. Through the window, I saw guests beginning to arrive. Women in elegant summer dresses, men in suits and boots. Everyone smiling, excited, ready to witness a beautiful Texas wedding. No one knew they might be attending a funeral instead. Thaddeus stood near the barn entrance, greeting early arrivals. Still in his casual clothes, he'd change into his wedding suit soon. He looked relaxed, confident, a man with nothing to hide. I walked toward him, every step deliberate. He saw me coming and smiled, that perfect, practiced smile. "Vesper, you look lovely. Nervous?" "We need to talk," I said quietly. "Privately?" His smile didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. Calculation. "Of course. Is everything all right?" "Office. Now." I turned and walked toward the house without waiting to see if he followed. I felt his presence behind me, felt the weight of his attention like a target on my back. In my office, my father's office really, barely changed since his death 40 years ago. I closed the door. "Vesper, what's this about?" "We have a wedding starting in 30 minutes. "Tell me about Quillen Westbrook," I said, watching his face. Nothing. Not a flicker of recognition. "I don't know who that is." "The engineer from Midland who died 3 years ago in a rig explosion. The one whose projects you claim are yours." Still nothing. He looked genuinely confused, concerned even. "Vesper, I think you're confused. My projects are my own. I don't know any Quillen Westbrook." "What about Marcus Chen? He died in Oklahoma. Or James Rutherford from Austin. All dead engineers. All with portfolios that match yours exactly." "I think the wedding stress is getting to you," he said gently, so perfectly concerned. "Have you been sleeping? Maybe you should sit down." "Don't," I snapped. "Don't you dare gaslight me. I know what you are. I know what you've done." The concern vanished, just disappeared, like switching off a light. What replaced it was cold, empty. The real man behind the mask. "You know nothing," he said quietly. "I know you're not an engineer. I know you've done this before. Houston, Oklahoma, Austin, San Antonio. I know about the explosions, the insurance fraud, the families you've destroyed. Prove it." 2 words: calm, confident, devastating. "I know you've modified the propane tanks," I said. "I know you're planning to blow up the barn during the reception. I know about your partnership with Henrik Vaughan. I know everything." He studied me for a long moment. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. "You think you're so smart," he said. "You think you've figured it all out. But here's what you don't understand, Vesper. Even if everything you just said was true, which I'm not confirming, what are you going to do about it? Tell Aurelia? She won't believe you. She loves me. She trusts me. And you? You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand seeing her daughter happy with someone else. The police are coming, I said. Are they? He pulled out his phone, checked something. Funny, I don't see any police. And do you know why? Because you called them with a vague threat about propane tanks. And when they show up, if they show up, they'll find those tanks are perfectly fine. No modifications, no danger. Just standard equipment, properly maintained. My blood went cold. You already removed the modifications? I never confirmed there were any modifications to remove, he said smoothly. But hypothetically, if someone had been concerned about propane safety, a responsible person might have double-checked the equipment this morning, made sure everything was secure, removed anything that seemed out of place. Hypothetically. He stepped closer. I held my ground, even though everything in me wanted to back away. Here's what's going to happen, he said. You're going to go out there, smile, and watch your daughter marry me. You're going to give a beautiful toast at the reception. And you're going to keep your mouth shut about these ridiculous conspiracy theories. Because if you don't, if you make a scene, if you try to stop this wedding, Aurelia will never forgive you. She'll cut you out of her life completely, and you'll spend your final years alone, wondering if maybe you were wrong. If maybe you let paranoia destroy your relationship with your only child. I'd rather lose her trust than her life, I said. Noble. Stupid, but noble. He checked his watch. 20 minutes until the ceremony. Better get ready, Vesper. Smile for the cameras. This is your daughter's special day. Don't ruin it. He walked out, leaving me standing there, shaking with rage and fear. But I'd seen something. In that conversation, I'd seen the truth. The cold calculation. The absolute certainty that he'd won. He thought he was smarter than me. Thought I was just a frightened old woman with suspicions and no proof. He was wrong. Because while he'd been talking, I'd been recording. My phone, in my pocket, capturing every word. It wasn't a confession. He'd been too careful for that. But it was enough. His tone, his threats, his certainty. Sometimes you don't need a smoking gun. You just need enough smoke to make people look for the fire. They wanted me weak. They got me patient. There's a difference. The wedding march began. Fiddle and guitar, hauntingly beautiful. Guests stood. And Aurelia appeared at the end of the aisle, ethereal in vintage lace, holding a bouquet of Texas wildflowers. She was so beautiful, so happy, so utterly unaware that the man waiting for her at the altar was planning her death. I stood in the front row, my smile fixed in place, my heart shattering with every step she took toward him. The officiant began. Traditional words about love and commitment and forever. Thaddeus said his vows perfectly, practiced, sincere sounding, completely false. Then Aurelia spoke. I promise to love you, honor you, stand by you through everything. You've shown me what partnership means, what family means. I can't wait to build our life together. I couldn't watch anymore, couldn't maintain the facade. I closed my eyes, trying to breathe, trying to think. Then I heard sirens, distant at first, then getting closer. Multiple vehicles, coming fast. Guests started murmuring, turning in their seats. The officiant paused mid-sentence. Thaddeus's face went tight. Just for a second, his mask slipped. 2 police cars came up the driveway, followed by an unmarked vehicle and, God bless Martinez, a fire truck. The ceremony stopped completely. Guests stood, confused. Aurelia looked at me, her expression a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. "Mom," she said. "What did you do?" Officers approached. I recognized Sheriff Linda Garrett, I'd donated to her campaign last year. Mrs. Langford? We got your call about a possible explosive device. Before I could respond, Thaddeus stepped forward. Perfect. Concerned. Helpful. Sheriff, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The mother of the bride has been under a lot of stress lately. We're happy to let you inspect the propane tanks, but I assure you, everything is completely safe. We'd like to inspect them anyway, Sheriff Garrett said, not asking, telling. Of course, whatever puts everyone's mind at ease. He gestured toward the barn. This way. We walked, all of us, toward those tanks, the wedding party, the sheriff, several officers, fire chief, me. Aurelia grabbed my arm. Mum, what is happening? Why would you call the police on my wedding day? Because I'm trying to save your life, I said quietly. From what? From Thaddeus? From happiness? God, I knew you'd find a way to ruin this. Martinez met us at the barn, looking worried. Mrs. Langford, I shut off the gas like you asked, but… You shut off the gas? Thaddeus interrupted. Why would you do that? We need it for the reception. Mrs. Langford said Mrs. Langford has been having some episodes lately, Thaddeus said smoothly. Age-related confusion. It's been concerning. We've been considering getting her evaluated. I'm not confused, I said sharply. And I'm not senile. Sheriff, those tanks were modified, rigged to explode during the reception. The fire chief examined them carefully, checked the valves, the connections, the lines. Ma'am, he said finally, these tanks are standard equipment, properly installed, no modifications, no danger. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. There were modifications this morning. Martinez sent me a photo. Mum, stop, Aurelia said, voice breaking. Please stop. I can explain. You've done enough explaining. She turned to Thaddeus. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with her. It's all right, he said, putting his arm around her, protective, loving, perfect. She's your mother. She's concerned. Maybe we should postpone, let her rest. No, Aurelia said firmly. No, we're getting married today, right now. Sheriff, are we in any danger? No, ma'am. Everything checks out fine. Then let's finish this. She walked away, back toward the ceremony area. Guests followed, whispering, staring at me with pity and judgment. I'd lost. Failed. Destroyed my relationship with my daughter for nothing. Except… Sheriff Garrett stayed back, watching Thaddeus walk away. Then she turned to me. Mrs. Langford, she said quietly, I need you to tell me why you really called. And don't say explosive devices. What's really going on? So I told her everything. Sable's call, the stolen identities, the pattern of insurance fraud, the suspicious modifications that had somehow disappeared, the recording of Thaddeus's threats. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, Do you have proof? Anything concrete? The recording, and the phone number, Sable Krishnan. She can tell you about the other families. That's circumstantial at best. She paused. But my gut says you're not crazy. Give me 10 minutes. She walked away, phone to her ear, making calls. I stood there, alone, watching my daughter's wedding resume without me. The ceremony concluded. Thaddeus kissed Aurelia. Guests applauded. Everything continued like I hadn't just tried to stop it all. I felt sick, defeated. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was a paranoid old woman destroying her daughter's happiness. Then Sheriff Garrett came back, with 2 more officers, and a man in a suit I didn't recognize. Mrs. Langford, this is Detective Marcus Sullivan from Houston PD. He'd like to speak with you. Mrs. Langford, Detective Sullivan said. I've been investigating a series of insurance fraud cases for 3 years. When Sheriff Garrett called and described your situation, I drove up immediately. Can you point out the man your daughter just married? I pointed to Thaddeus, now taking photos with Aurelia, both of them laughing. Detective Sullivan stared at him. His expression went hard. That's Dax Calloway, he said quietly. We've been looking for him for 2 years. He disappeared after the Houston explosion that killed 3 people. We couldn't prove it was arson, but we knew. We just couldn't find him. What happens now? I asked. Now we arrest him, and we need to get your daughter away from him before he realizes what's happening. Sheriff Garrett signaled to her officers. They approached casually, blending with the crowd. I walked toward Aurelia. She saw me coming, and her face hardened. Don't, she warned. Don't say anything. Honey, please, just come with me for a minute. So you can tell me more conspiracy theories? So you can ruin my wedding even more than you already have? Aurelia, Sheriff Garrett said, appearing beside us. We need you to step away from your husband for just a moment. What? Why? Aurelia looked between us, confused and angry. Thaddeus sensed something. I saw it in the way his body tensed, the way his eyes darted toward the exit. He grabbed Aurelia's hand. Come on, sweetheart. Let's get away from this drama for a minute. Mr. Calloway, Detective Sullivan said, stepping forward. Or should I say, Mr. Brennigan, or whatever name you're using this week. I'm Detective Sullivan, Houston PD. I need you to come with me. Everything happened fast. Thaddeus tried to run, actually tried to bolt through the crowd of wedding guests. Officers moved in, blocking his path. He grabbed Aurelia, pulling her in front of him like a shield. Don't touch me, he shouted. This is harassment. I haven't done anything wrong. You're wanted for questioning in connection with insurance fraud and 3 counts of manslaughter in Houston, Detective Sullivan said calmly. We can do this easy or hard. Your choice. Manslaughter? Aurelia whispered. She looked at Thaddeus, really looked at him, and I saw the moment doubt crept in. Thaddeus, what is he talking about? It's a mistake, baby. A case of mistaken identity. I'm not whoever they think I am. Your fingerprints say otherwise, Detective Sullivan said. We pulled them from the marriage license application. Dax Calloway. Wanted in 4 states. Real name David Callahan, born in Nevada. Criminal record going back 20 years. Identity theft, fraud, suspected arson. No, Aurelia said, shaking her head. No, you're wrong. He's an engineer. He's never engineered anything in his life, I said gently. The projects on his website belong to dead men he stole from. I tried to tell you. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. You knew? This whole time? You knew, and you didn't. I found out this morning, 45 minutes before the wedding. I tried to stop it. I called the police. I tried to warn you. Thaddeus's mask finally shattered completely. The charm disappeared, replaced by cold rage. You stupid old bitch, he snarled at me. This was supposed to be easy. You were supposed to be grateful someone wanted to marry your pathetic daughter and take care of your worthless property. Instead, you had to meddle, had to ruin everything. Aurelia flinched like he'd slapped her. Pathetic? Thaddeus, how can you— Shut up, he snapped at her. God, you were so easy, so desperate to believe someone loved you. Oh, Thaddeus, you understand me. You value our family legacy. You practically threw the deed at me. I watched my daughter's heart break in real time. Watched her realize that every moment of their relationship had been a lie, Every sweet word, every romantic gesture, every promise, calculated manipulation. The loan, she whispered. The money. You were going to take it all, yeah? The ranch, the mineral rights, the foundation assets, all of it. And if you'd been smart enough to shut up and die in the explosion like you were supposed to, I'd already be in the Caymans spending your inheritance. Two officers grabbed him. He fought, screaming obscenities, threatening lawsuits, claiming innocence even as he confessed to everything. They dragged him away, his custom Stetson falling in the dirt, his bolo tie askew. The perfect Texas gentleman revealed as a monster in a costume. 200 wedding guests stood in shocked silence, watching the groom get arrested. And Aurelia collapsed. Just crumpled, like all the strings holding her up had been cut. I caught her, held her as she sobbed. My fierce, brilliant daughter, broken by betrayal. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "Mum, I'm so sorry. You tried to tell me, and I wouldn't listen. I thought you were being controlling and jealous, and I said such horrible things." "Shh. I know. It's okay." "It's not okay. He was going to kill us. He was going to blow up the barn with everyone inside, and I wouldn't listen to you." "But he didn't," I said firmly. "We're alive. We're safe. And he's going to prison for a very long time." Sheriff Garrett approached carefully. "Mrs. Langford, Detective Sullivan needs statements from both of you. And we'll need access to financial records, the deed transfer, the loan, everything. We're building a case not just for the Houston incident, but for fraud here as well." "Whatever you need," I said. "There's something else," Sheriff Garrett said quietly. "The fire chief found something when he did a more thorough inspection of the barn. There were modifications to the propane tanks, recent ones. They'd been removed, but not completely. He left trace evidence. Probably planned to reinstall them after you were discredited as a paranoid old woman. So I hadn't been crazy, hadn't been wrong. He'd just been smart enough to cover his tracks temporarily, but not smart enough to account for a mother's instinct. For a woman who'd survived 69 years of life's punches and wasn't about to go down without a fight. The next few days were chaos. Police interviews, financial investigators, reporters camped outside our gate. My phone rang constantly. Friends, concerned community members, lawyers offering services. Aurelia moved back into her old room, slept for nearly 20 hours straight that first night, her body and mind shutting down from the trauma. When she finally woke up, she came downstairs to find me in the kitchen, making her favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes, just like when she was little. "I don't deserve comfort food," she said, voice hoarse. "Everyone deserves comfort food," I replied, flipping a pancake. "Especially people who've been through hell." She sat at the table, my mother's table, worn smooth by generations of family meals. "How did you know?" she asked. "How did you figure it out?" I told her everything. Sable's call, the research, the stolen identities, the pattern of destruction across 4 states. "I almost didn't believe it myself," I admitted. Part of me wanted to ignore that text message, to let you have your perfect wedding and hope I was wrong. But I couldn't, because I'm your mother, and protecting you will always matter more than your temporary happiness. She started crying again. "I was so mean to you. I said such terrible things. You were in love, or you thought you were. He was good at what he did. How could I be so stupid?" She buried her face in her hands. "I'm supposed to be smart. I run a foundation. I manage millions of dollars in investments. How did I fall for such an obvious con?" "Because he targeted exactly what you wanted," I said gently. "Someone who valued our family's legacy. someone who wanted to preserve what we'd built. He studied us, Aurelia, found our vulnerabilities, and exploited them perfectly. That's not your fault. I signed over the deed. I took out that loan. I gave him everything. And we'll fix it, I said firmly. My lawyer is already working on it. The deed transfer is being contested. Fraud invalidates contracts. The loan can be renegotiated or dissolved given the circumstances. Nothing is permanent except the lesson you've learned. Which is that trust has to be earned, that love takes time, that when something seems too perfect, it usually is. I set the pancakes in front of her, and that your mother's paranoia occasionally serves a purpose. She laughed, a small, broken sound, but a laugh nonetheless. Over the next few weeks, the story unfolded like a nightmare coming into focus. Detective Sullivan connected Dax Calloway to 5 separate identities across 7 years, 5 families destroyed, 2 deaths directly linked to him, the Houston explosion. 3 more suspicious incidents under investigation, the total amount stolen, over $12 million. The number of lives destroyed, incalculable. Sable Krishnan came to Fort Worth to give her statement. She and Aurelia met, 2 survivors of the same predator, and I watched them forge a connection born from shared trauma. I'm sorry I couldn't stop him sooner, Sable told Aurelia. I tried. God, I tried. But no one would listen. My mother listened, Aurelia said, squeezing my hand. That's what matters. The media called it the wedding day arrest. Local news became national news. We were invited on talk shows, asked to tell our story, offered book deals and movie rights. We declined everything. Some stories don't need to be entertainment. Some pain shouldn't be packaged for profit. But I am sharing it now, here, in my own words. Because elder abuse and financial exploitation happen every day. Because families are destroyed by charming sociopaths who know exactly how to manipulate trust. Because I wish someone had shared a story like this with me 2 years ago, when Thaddeus first walked through our door with his perfect smile and his perfect lies. 6 months later, we sat in a Houston courtroom. Federal charges, wire fraud, identity theft, insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit arson, 2 counts of manslaughter. Aurelia sat beside me, her hand in mine. On my other side, Sable. Behind us, representatives from the 3 other families he'd destroyed. Dax Calloway, because that's who he really was, who he'd always been, sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit. No custom Stetson, no bolo tie, no charm. Just a middle-aged con artist facing 40 years to life. His lawyer tried, claimed mistaken identity, circumstantial evidence, prejudicial media coverage, argued that the deaths in Houston were accidental, that my daughter's case never actually resulted in harm, that intent couldn't be proven. But the prosecution had evidence, mountains of it, financial records tracing stolen money, emails coordinating with insurance agents, text messages planning accidents, and recordings, including the one I'd made on my phone, where his threats and cold calculation were crystal clear. Witness after witness testified. Sable's cousin, scarred from the Houston explosion, describing how Dax had swept her off her feet, married her, gotten control of her family's properties, and then walked away from a gas explosion that killed her mother while collecting $8 million in insurance money. A woman from Oklahoma, whose elderly father had accidentally died in a house fire 3 months after Dax married into their family, but not before transferring property worth $5 million. An insurance investigator who'd been tracking suspicious patterns across the Southwest for years, finally able to connect them to one man. And me. I testified about the stolen identities, the rushed deed transfer, the massive loan, the modified propane tanks, the insurance agent who'd mysteriously increased our coverage. He told me I was too old to understand modern relationships, I said from the witness stand, that I was jealous of my daughter's happiness, that I should just accept him and stop asking questions. I looked directly at Dax. But I didn't stop asking questions, and that saved my daughter's life. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 45 years in federal prison without possibility of parole for 25 years. "Mr. Calloway," Judge Martinez said, "you are a predator. You target vulnerable families, exploit their grief and loneliness, and destroy them for profit. You have shown no remorse, no accountability, no humanity. This court's responsibility is to ensure you never have the opportunity to hurt another family again." Dax didn't react, didn't apologize, didn't even look at us. They led him away, and I felt Aurelia's hand tighten in mine. "It's over," she whispered. "It's over," I agreed. But was it? The legal case was finished, justice had been served. But the emotional aftermath, the trust shattered, the innocence lost, the scars left behind, those would take much longer to heal. I'm not going to lie to you and say everything went back to normal. There is no normal after something like this. Aurelia went to therapy, twice a week at first, then once a week, working through the trauma of betrayal, the shame of being conned, the guilt of not listening to warning signs. I went too. Because even though I'd been right, even though I'd saved us, I still carried the weight of it all. The fear that I'd been too late. The knowledge that I'd almost lost my daughter. The exhaustion of constantly being vigilant. We rebuilt our relationship slowly, honestly, with new boundaries and better communication. "I need you to promise me something," Aurelia said one evening, about 3 months after the trial. We were sitting on the porch swing, watching fireflies dance over the property. "Anything," I said. "If you ever think I'm making a mistake again, with a man, with business, with anything, promise you'll tell me, even if it makes me angry, even if it ruins the moment. Promise you won't stay quiet to preserve my feelings." "I promise. But you have to promise me something too." "What?" "Promise you'll listen. You don't have to agree. You don't have to do what I say. But promise you'll actually hear me out before dismissing me as a controlling mother." She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in months. "Deal." We shook on it, her hand warm in mine. The ranch slowly came back to life. The barn that was supposed to host a reception of death became, instead, a gathering place for healing. We hosted a charity event for elder abuse awareness, raised money for organizations that help families recognize financial exploitation, invited speakers who'd survived similar situations. Mrs. Chen, yes, the same Mrs. Chen from my prompt template, because apparently I can't help myself, started a support group for families affected by fraud. It meets in our barn once a month. Sable became a friend. She visits twice a year, and we compare notes on the warning signs we missed, the red flags we dismissed, the gut feelings we ignored. "We weren't stupid," she says every time. "We were human, and he was professional." "Professionally evil," I add. That too. Aurelia threw herself into work, restructured the foundation, implemented new financial safeguards, created oversight committees so no single person could make major decisions without review. "Trust but verify," she said, showing me the new protocols. "From now on, we trust carefully and we verify everything." Smart woman. My daughter? She dates now. Cautiously, very cautiously, maybe too cautiously, but I don't blame her. The first time she brought someone new to meet me, a kind, patient librarian named Marcus, who moves at the speed of a glacier and seems genuinely content to take things slow. I grilled him like he was applying for a top-secret government position. "Mom," Aurelia laughed, "you asked for his credit report." "And he provided it," I pointed out, "which shows good character and nothing to hide." Marcus just smiled. "Mrs. Langford, after what your family went through, I'd be suspicious if you didn't investigate me. Ask whatever you need to ask." I like Marcus. He might actually be who he says he is. Time will tell. Some days I'm still angry. I see happy weddings on TV or in magazines, and I feel rage that ours was destroyed. That Aurelia's special day became a crime scene. That her wedding photos show police cars and officers instead of just joy and celebration. Other days, I'm grateful. Grateful we survived. Grateful I trusted my instincts. Grateful that text message came when it did, giving me just enough time to stop a tragedy. Both things can be true: anger and gratitude, loss and relief, trauma and strength. Healing isn't linear, it's messy. Some days Aurelia is fine, confident, moving forward. Other days she breaks down crying, wondering how she could have been so blind. "You weren't blind," I tell her every time. "You were hopeful. There's a difference." I've learned some things in the aftermath of this nightmare. Hard-won wisdom that maybe, hopefully, will help someone else. I learned that kindness without boundaries is self-destruction. That saying yes to everything doesn't make you loving, it makes you a target. I learned that family can be wrong, that blood relation doesn't guarantee good intentions, that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you most, and sometimes the ones trying to save you are the ones you push away. I learned that gut instinct matters, that when something feels wrong, it probably is, that your body knows danger before your mind can articulate it. I learned that love takes time. Real love, honest love, lasting love. It doesn't happen in 6 months. It doesn't rush you into financial decisions. It doesn't pressure you to sign documents or make commitments before you're ready. Real love is patient. It waits. It proves itself through consistency, not intensity. I learned that asking questions isn't paranoia. That wanting proof isn't a character flaw. That protecting yourself and your family is wisdom, not cruelty. And I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is cause temporary pain to prevent permanent disaster. If I hadn't stopped that wedding, if I'd stayed silent to preserve Aurelia's happiness, we'd both be dead. 200 wedding guests would have been killed or injured, and Dax Calloway would be on a beach somewhere, spending our money, planning his next target. Instead, he's in prison. We're alive. And our family's legacy, the ranch, the foundation, the history, remains intact. Was the cost high? Yes. Did it hurt? God, yes. Do I wish it had happened differently, every single day? But I'd make the same choice again, 1,000 times over, because my daughter's life is worth more than her wedding day. Our safety is worth more than social embarrassment, and truth, however painful, is worth more than a pretty lie. It's been a year now since the wedding that wasn't, since the text message that changed everything, since the day I chose truth over comfort and saved my daughter's life. Aurelia and I were sitting on the porch last week. We do that a lot now, just sitting together in comfortable silence, when she said something that made me cry. "Thank you." Just that. 2 words. "For what?" I asked, though I knew. For loving me enough to be the bad guy, for risking our relationship to save my life, for trusting your instincts even when I made you doubt them. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. You believed me when it mattered, I said. That's what counts. We sat there as the sun set over the property, turning the sky pink and gold. The same view my great-grandfather saw when he first settled this land. The same view I've loved my entire life. The same view I almost lost to a con man with a charming smile. But I didn't lose it. We didn't lose it. Because when it mattered most, I fought back. So here's my question for you, and I genuinely want to know. If you were in my position, if you got that text message 45 minutes before your child's wedding, what would you have done? Would you have stayed silent to preserve their happiness? Would you have trusted your instinct? Would you have called the police, risking everything on the word of a stranger? There's no right answer, just honest ones. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your story if you have one. Because I think we heal by sharing, by knowing we're not alone. And if you're going through something similar right now, if someone in your life is making you question your reality, rushing you into decisions, isolating you from people who ask questions, please listen to that voice in your head telling you something's wrong. Please ask for help. Please investigate before you commit. You're not paranoid. You're not overreacting. You're not being difficult. You're being smart. And smart might save your life. Before you go, one last thing. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more stories about recognizing manipulation, setting boundaries, and fighting back against people who target vulnerable families. Ring the bell so you don't miss updates. And drop a comment with the word survivor if you've overcome something hard. Abuse, betrayal, loss, fraud, whatever tested you and didn't break you. I want to see how many of us there are. I have a feeling it's more than we think. This is our community. These are our stories. And together, we're unbreakable. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the kind comments and support. It means more than you know. Remember, courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It just means you move forward anyway. Trust your instincts, protect your family, and never ever let anyone convince you that your concerns don't matter. God bless you all. Stay strong, stay safe, stay vigilant. And if something feels wrong, it probably is.